Have you ever been listening to your child read and then they come to a word and they completely wing it and you're like, what in the world? They just read everything just fine and now they're guessing a word? If your child is guessing at words once in a while, or if it's become a habit, today in this episode, we're going to talk about what might be behind that, and then we'll talk about a few strategies that you can take right now back to your home, to your kitchen table, or wherever you're doing learning time with your child, and you can start to work with them today. So why do children guess when they're reading? Well, to begin with, one reason we often see this is if children haven't fully developed their ability or their confidence in their ability to decode. And a lot of times that circles back to whether or not they've developed strong phonemic awareness, which is the number one or one of the top predictors of reading success long term. So if you're unsure what phonemic awareness is, I have tons of videos that talk about phonemic awareness and give strategies to work on that with your child. So I super encourage you to go ahead and check those videos out. But if they haven't developed strong phonemic awareness, they might be relying on things like the shape of the word, or they might be looking at the picture for the context, which we don't want to encourage that because that gets into like guessing, right? It gets into that 3 cueing method, which we are completely steering away from. They might be relying on or over relying on the beginning letter or the beginning sound and guessing based upon that and the picture, which again, we want to steer them away from that skill. It's not going to serve them well long term. And they might be using knowledge of sight words. Again, sight words is something else that we really want to steer away from. We want to focus on phonics and decoding. Another reason your child might be guessing is because they want to keep up and they want to have that appearance of fluency. I don't know about you, but when I was a young child learning to read, that feeling of being able to hum along in your reading, or like think about when you were learning to drive and you started out and you were, driving slow in the parking lot, and pretty soon you were on the road and you were able to go like maybe 25 miles per hour, but that felt like you were actually going at a good pace. Well, our beginning readers, they feel the same way about reading, and they want to have that fluency feel because that feels to them like, being a big kid. So that could be another reason where they're winging it and they're guessing because they want to be fluent readers. A third reason might be if they have been introduced to some guessing strategies, which I talked about in the first point. If you have a child that's been in school and they're using a method called the 3 cueing system, that is something that we have really moved away from. And it was a big deal when I was a young teacher. This was something that was promoted, and we have learned that using this strategy with children is giving them almost like false crutches. So you might see them looking at the beginning sound and overly relying on that, checking with the picture. Those types of signs indicate that they are using a cueing system like that. And if you've done that with your child, there is no reason to panic. We're going to talk about strategies today that you can take back and work on with your child. And again, something like looking at the beginning sound isn't a bad strategy. We just don't want our children to be over reliant on that. And as far as pictures and illustrations are concerned, we don't want our children to become over reliant on the pictures because eventually our goal is for them to be able to read more advanced text like chapter books and even, informational text that isn't going to have as many illustrations. So although illustrations can serve a purpose, we don't want our children to be overly reliant on them. A fourth reason you might see your child guessing at a word is that they're rushing. And sometimes it's like when you write and you need somebody else to proofread because you see what you expect to see. Sometimes that happens to our early readers or even our 3rd, 4th, 5th grade readers, right? And that's okay. So today we're going to talk about some strategies that you can use to help gently correct and guide your children to overcome some of these challenges. So let's talk about how to stop the guessing. The first thing I want to encourage you to do is take a step back and go back to the phonics. Encourage them to slow down and to pay attention to each sound in a word. So if they're rushing through, don't be afraid to say, hey, let's take a look at that word again. And if you need to, you can take it all the way back and you can get out those Elkonin boxes and really help them to slow down. Make sure they understand that every single sound, every single vowel team or phoneme in a word matters. And so we need to slow down and really pay attention to that, because if we are rushing through, we might miss that it's not separate letters, but rather two letters working together to say one sound. So for instance, like if I have the word red, and we all know this is a very tricky word, and it gets into something called set for variability. So if I'm looking at this and I'm humming along, I might read this very quickly as read, but it depends on the context of the sentence, right? And whether or not that makes sense in the sentence. Again, we don't want to become overly reliant on that, but we do want to slow our children down and have them stop and pay attention to the way the letters are working together. So if it doesn't sound correctly as read, oh, wait a minute, that also can be read. Oh, he read the book, not he read the book. That would be an example. That's set for variability, actually, and that's so cool to see kids do when they correct their mistakes like that. But in any case, we really want to slow our children down when they're reading. You're going to want to make sure that their phonemic awareness is really, really strong. And I'm going to link a phonemic awareness activity, a video right here, but really quick, and just to give you a visual. For instance, if I have the word bat, I might take them back to b, a, t, b, at, bat, and really help them focus on each individual sound. Take them back to Elkonin boxes, or if you need to even go back to one cue per sound, that's okay too. We can go ahead and we can absolutely do that to help our children get the support that they need. So we would go back and say, oh look, one sound per box, b, a, t, bat. And that's especially helpful if you have a word that has a vowel team or a digraph. Practicing with simple CVC words can also help them take that step back and get them into the mode of blending fluently, which builds that phonemic awareness that they super need. Of course, when we're connecting the sounds to actual written letters, we are in phonics territory, but this is what phonemic awareness builds. So if you want to go ahead and practice phonemic awareness and just the sounds and listening to them, that's great. You can totally do that. Just b, at, bat. Ooh, let's try another word. Cat. K, at, cat. And repeat that and practice just a couple minutes a day. But if you want to practice on the board, taking them back to really simple CVC words or consonant vowel consonant words, that can be a great strategy too. If, for example, I have a word like crust, I might take some time to remind the child that every single sound in that word really matters. So I could write it in my Elkonin boxes. K, s, t, k, cr, st, crust. Blend it, crust. And there you have it. That would be a way to really help them slow down and focus on each sound. Remind them that slowing down is part of being a good reader, not necessarily a weakness. It makes them stronger because they're taking the time to sharpen their skills. Another way to prevent children from becoming reliant on guessing and looking at the illustration, if that's what's going on, is to remove the pictures and rely fully on what's known as decodable text. And that means that we are ensuring that the words that our children are presented with in a book that they're reading, that they are equipped with the tools to read those words. So we're not throwing in tricky words that they have not learned the phonics for. We are only putting in front of them words that have phonics they have worked on and have gotten a bit of confidence in. So that would be another strategy. If you notice that they're relying on the picture and they're guessing based upon that, then find some decodable text that removes the illustration completely and have them focus on reading those types of text so that they get weaned off of relying on the illustration. Now, I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but if they're having trouble connecting the sounds and they're rushing through and just guessing, then we want to make sure that we go back to something called continual blending. And I'm going to go ahead and use my 3 sound boxes, and let's start with a word like ran. Now, continual blending is when we stretch out that medial vowel just a little bit. We don't want to like stretch it out too much so it sounds like we have multiple vowels in the middle, but we do want to do just that bit of bridge over for them so they can kind of feel how it smoothly blends together. So if we segment it, it sounds like this. Now the middle step would be now to stretch it out a bit. Ran, blend it, ran. And you can repeat that with other words. Maybe you say, I want to make this word tan, like the color tan. Oh, I hear a t now at the beginning. All right, let's get out our reading finger. T, Now stretch it. Tan, blend it, tan. So continual blending is a great tool to have in your toolbox to help them bridge that gap from segmenting to fluent blending. Now, of course, we love to see fluent and smooth reading, but if you notice that your child slows down to really take the time to sound out a word, especially when they're new to reading, go ahead and make sure you praise that effort. Say, I really love the way that you slowed down to make sure that every sound that you listen to it, that was really great. And I know that we're going to be reading really smoothly, but today you did something great. You read a new word and you slowed down and you noticed every sound. I mean, that's like, I'm giving you so many words there and you can pick and choose which part of that you want to use. But really encouraging them in that and being genuine about it and authentic, because kids can pick that up too. But really encouraging them to slow down when they need to is important, because they need to hear that being a good reader is more than just being able to read fast. Being a good reader is understanding what you read. And if you have to slow down or go back and read it again, that's actually something that good readers do. So in any case, encourage your child when they slow down to make sure every single sound counts. The last strategy or tool that I want to encourage you with is more of a tip, and that is to avoid overcorrecting right in the middle of the story, because we don't want reading to become drudgery. And this is especially true, not just for reading, but it's also true for writing, which is a completely different episode. I love literacy, especially when children are learning and they're early learning. It's so much fun. So I get all excited about it. But when children are reading, it's important to not overcorrect and not frustrate them. So if you do need to stop them, you can say, did you notice? I'm not sure. Did that make sense? Let's go back and read that again. Let's slow down and let's look at each sound here and really help them to slow down, call their attention to it, and let them know and remind them that's okay to do. So to wrap it all up, guessing is more of a symptom. It's not really the problem. And so we need to get to the root of that problem to help our children with the right strategy. So remember, working on that phonemic awareness, letting them know it's okay to slow down when they come up to a new word, and also teaching them phonemic awareness, letting them know that it's okay to slow down when they come to a new word, that is perfectly fine to do. All of these strategies can be used to help your child improve and stop the guessing. It is completely doable and totally worth it. And I'm here every step of the way to help you. Make sure you subscribe for more weekly Learn to Read tips with me, Dr. Deanna. So to wrap it all up, guessing is more of a symptom. It's not really the problem. And so we need to get to the root of that problem to help our children with the right strategy. Teaching them phonemic awareness, letting them know that it's okay to slow down when they come to a new word, that is perfectly fine to do. All of these strategies can be used to help your child improve and stop the guessing. It is completely doable and totally worth it. And I'm here every step of the way to help you. Make sure you subscribe for more weekly Learn to Read tips with me, Dr. Deanna.